This video is for homework in Mastery 2.2, Section 8.2 in your textbook. Multiplying polynomials. We've already looked at adding and subtracting polynomials. What we want to do now is look at multiplying polynomials, whether that is a monomial times a polynomial, or binomial times binomial, or binomial times polynomial, anything of this nature. In here we will also take a look at the FOIL method, which is only for binomial by binomial. We don't use this very often. We actually want to learn how to multiply out more than just binomial by binomial. But you will hear your professors in other classes and things, and you may have heard the term FOIL before, and so we'll look at that here. So where we're wanting to look at a monomial, which is a one-termed polynomial, times a trinomial or binomial, anything of that nature, what we want to do is basically what we're just doing is distributing the monomial, the negative 2y, into the parentheses. So we're going to multiply the negative 2y times each term inside the parentheses. So I'm going to take negative 2y times 5y squared, then I'll take negative 2y times 3y, and a negative 2y times a negative 8. And I've written it out here so you can see exactly what I have multiplied it by. When I do this, a negative 2y times a 5y squared, well, negative 2 times 5 gives me a negative 10. Y times y squared will give me a y to the third, as you see here. Negative 2 times 3 gives me a negative 6, and y times y is going to give me a y squared. Negative 2 times negative 8 gives me a positive 16, and then I have a y. After I have multiplied or distributed my negative 2y, what I want to last do is see if there are any like terms that I can combine. In this particular case there are not, because I have a negative 10y to the third, I have a negative 6y squared, and a positive 16y. None of these are like terms. I also want to make sure that my exponents are in descending order, which in this case they are, 3, 2, 1. So my final answer is negative 10y cubed minus 6y squared plus 16y. Let's look at another example. Here I have 2x plus 3 times a 3x squared plus 5x minus 1. And I want to multiply this binomial right here times this trinomial. What I'm doing is I'm going to multiply the 2x times this entire trinomial and the 3 times the entire trinomial. As you see written out here, I've taken the 2x and I'm going to multiply it by the trinomial plus the 3 times the trinomial. When I do that, I'm also going to distribute the 2x into the first set of parentheses, and I'll distribute the 3 into the second set of parentheses. So I get 2x times 3x squared plus 2x times the 5x plus 2x times a negative 1. Then I get plus 3 times 3x squared plus 3 times 5x plus 3 times a negative 1. So what I have done is I have multiplied the 2x times everything inside the parentheses and the 3 times everything inside the parentheses. Now I will begin to simplify this, and I will multiply these out. 2x times 3x squared will give me 6x cubed. 2x times 5x will give me 10x squared. 2x times a negative 1 gives me a negative 2x. 3 times 3x squared gives me a 9x squared. 3 times 5x gives me 15x. And 3 times a negative 1 gives me a negative 3. Now at this point, I need to combine like terms. The 6x cubed, that's my only x cubed, so I'll keep it. I can combine the 10x squared and the 9x squared, giving me 19x squared. I can also combine the negative 2x and the positive 15x, giving me 13x, and then the negative 3. So my final answer is going to be 6x cubed plus 19x squared plus 13x minus 3. What we have done here is taken everything in the binomial and multiplied it by everything inside the trinomial and combined like terms. So we've actually done a distributive property with two different items. Now let's try a binomial times a binomial. I have y plus 1 times y minus 5. What if we do like we did in the previous problem, I would take y times y times negative 5. I would also take 1 times y, and 1 times negative 5. This method is actually called the FOIL method. FOIL stands for first, outside, inner, and last. The first tells me to take the y times the y, the first term in each binomial. Y times y gives me y squared. The O stands for the outer. That means take my first one here in the first binomial times the outer or my last in the second binomial. Y times negative 5, which gives me a negative 5y. I stands for inner. Take my 1 times my y. My two inner values. 1 times y gives me a positive y. And then the L stands for last. Take the last in each binomial and multiply them. Positive 1 times a negative 5, which gives me a negative 5. So I get y squared minus 5y plus y minus 5. And I simplify. And I should get, whenever I simplify, which I left that out, I would get y squared minus 4y minus 5. Let's look at this example. This example has 3x plus 1 times x minus 2. I've already done the FOIL for this one. I did 3x times x and got x squared. I did 3x times the negative 2 and got negative 6x. I did 1 times x and got the plus x. I did the 1 times the negative 2 and got the negative 2. So I did my first times my first, my outside times my outside, my inner times my inner, my last times my last. When I combine like terms, I can combine the negative 6x plus the x, and I get a negative 5x. So I have 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. So the product of 3x plus 1 times x minus 2 will be 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. Again, what we have done is we have distributed everything inside the first set of parentheses into the second set of parentheses. This particular method for binomial times binomial is called the FOIL method. We will learn more about this in future sections. This is just a brief introduction. If you need help, please let one of us know.